Welcome back to Inside City Hall. New York's leading politicians are on the move. As we have been telling you, Governor Cuomo traveled to Cuba this morning, while Mayor de Blasio spent part of last week in Iowa and Nebraska. So do these trips signal a desire for a national political future? Joining me now to weigh in on that question and much more are four top political strategists in our Monday Consultants Corner. We have tonight Republicans Jessica Proud and Kevin Fullington, Democrats Alexis, Grenell, and Bob Liff. Thank you all for being here. And we decided to focus in on Mayor de Blasio. There's been some talk, there have been a couple of newspaper articles, including one in a British newspaper saying he might be planning to run for president in 2016 or 2020. We asked you to grade the likelihood that that might actually be happening. Jessica.
I gave him an A for effort. I mean, this mayor certainly loves to be in campaign mode, and he's certainly also not the first mayor to harbor national aspirations. But I think it's a very dangerous conversation to be happening in such a young mayoralty. He's got a lot of things that he needs to focus on here at home. There were 20 shootings over the weekend. Homelessness is up. He's fighting disability benefits for cops and firefighters. Like, these are real income inequality issues, if you will. So I think he needs to really keep his eye on the ball. Certainly going to give speeches in early primary states and not, refusing to endorse Hillary right away is going to just ramp up that speculation.
Alexis.
Oh, I give it an incomplete or non-applicable because what mayor of New York City doesn't have national aspirations? It hasn't, and we haven't had a mayor like that in 30 years. So it sort of doesn't apply. But I do think actually this mayor has made no secret of his ideological aspirations and really the aspirations for the country. So it doesn't really come out of left field or even strike me as necessarily all that notable that the basic figurehead of the American left right now and somebody who's made an international statement traveling to the UK to speak to the Labour Party would think it's significant to shape the debate here at home in one of the most important presidential elections that we're going to see in our lifetime. So I actually think it's very consistent with his record.
Wants to be heard but isn't necessarily running.
Right.
Interesting. Kevin.
Oh, he's absolutely running. I mean, I think the New York Post story today about it was absurd because of its sourcing, but it was just 4 years too soon. I think you have to start with a self-evident truth, which is every politician in this country wants to be president and thinks they can be president. And then to the point that Alexis and Jessica made, every mayor of New York City who has been a good mayor wants to be president. Mike Bloomberg certainly wanted to be. Mayor Giuliani ran for president. Ed Koch ran for governor just so he could maybe run for president. John Lindsay ran for president. There's a whole list of it. And then you look at Mayor de Blasio. He ran for the city council and won. So then he ran for public advocate and won. Then he ran for mayor and won. So of course he wants to take the next step. And the question is positioning himself to do it and positioning himself as the leader of the far left of his party. And he's taking all the preliminary steps to do that. And what I'm really looking forward is 4 years from now when there's a primary between Andrew Cuomo and Bill de Blasio for president. That's going to be fantastic.
Well, I was going to say, you've got a Brer Rabbit look on your face there. Like, you can't wait for this to happen. And not for reasons that Bill de Blasio would like. Bob Liff.
I don't remember President Lindsay or Governor Koch or President Bloomberg or President Giuliani. This has been a job that people don't go beyond. If you're asking, is he
calling it a dead-end job? Is that what you're saying?
Well, but it's a hell of a job. It's a fabulous job. So I mean, if it's a dead end, we should all be, we should all struggle under that kind of a under that kind of a dead end. If you're asking, is he going to do it next year? Then the answer is F. He's absolutely not. Is he going to do it in the long term? It's incomplete. I have no doubt that Bill de Blasio is ultimately pragmatic along with his ideological leanings. As you saw last year when he helped Andrew Cuomo and got absolutely nothing for it, which is a separate point. But he is trying to push the party to the left. I have no doubt he's going to endorse Hillary Clinton ultimately, and he's trying to cause a debate. I think that this idea that he was obligated to jump right out of the bat is kind of people chasing their tails, and it's one of those stories that's accurate but not true. I mean, it's like, give the guy a break and give her a break.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about the other traveler out there, the other restless traveler out there. Governor Cuomo making what looks like a 36-hour trip, maybe a 24-hour trip to Cuba. Good idea. It's being framed as a trade mission.
Well, it's certainly a good idea from a political perspective.
First governor down.
If I was one of his advisors, I would have told him absolutely do it. But let's stop being phony and saying this is about trade. I think two facts you need to know. Number one is there's a trade embargo in place that can only be removed by Congress, and it will not be removed for the foreseeable future. Number two is the average person in Cuba makes $250 a year. That's their salary. So I don't think anyone's lining up to buy green tea flavored Chobani yogurt from New York State, but yet Governor Cuomo went down there and he said this is about trade, and I'm bringing the guy from Chobani to sell yogurt.
But he also brought the guy from I think MasterCard, and he's brought a number of business leaders. Ultimately, Cuba is going to open up.
This is
and so I mean I think it goes under the title of can't hurt, and I think it's. You know, I think New York should be first down there. I mean, I think
but this is really about priorities too, right? I mean, to Kevin's point, Cuba doesn't really represent an economic opportunity for New York that's significant. There are trade relationships that New York has, even within the continental United States, with Canada potentially, with other international trade partners that are potentially much more lucrative deals. So obviously, this is not about trade. What arguably it is about is a very interesting photo op, and you know, again, to this point about priorities, there are other things that are going on in New York State, perhaps things that he promised during the campaign, that might merit more attention. I think there's some confusion as to why the governor of New York needs to be in Cuba right now.
There is no legitimate reason. That's the problem. I mean, this is like the perfect example of what's wrong with economic policy in New York State. You have him spending millions of dollars on startup New York ads, which are basically thinly veiled political ads that have created less than 100 jobs so far. And then now he's going to Cuba in order to increase trade. I mean, it's just insane. And today, when he was asked about Joanne Chesimard, he said he doesn't have an opinion on that. They're harboring a fugitive, a cop killer, an American cop killer, and you have no opinion on that? I mean, I feel like that's something he definitely should have been prepared to answer before he put himself in front of reporters.
Also, though, when you say that there are other priorities, I mean, you could say that about anything. If he goes to the state fair in Skaneateles, you could say he has other priorities. There's a lot of time in a year for a governor to do a lot of different things.
I wouldn't say it about anything, though. I would say if we're talking about economic policy and trade, the spectrum of policies that are within the relevant sphere of influence for the governor of New York don't include Cuba. Maybe Cuba's like way out here.
Do you feel that way when he goes to Japan or Greece or?
Well, there is a lively debate over whether or not the free trade agreements we have with places like Vietnam, these small economies, make any sense at all. Let's take a short break. We're going to talk some more with these fine consultants in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where I am joined once again by the members of our Consultants Corner, Republicans Jessica Proud and Kevin Fullington, Democrats Alexis, Grenell, and Bob Liff. The presidential race is starting to heat up. Up in Nashua, New Hampshire, there were 19 Republicans vying for the attention of the Republican electorate. They're not bashing each other. It seemed to me that they were taking turns bashing Hillary Clinton. But at some point, they're going to have to start distinguishing themselves from one another if they want to, break 12% in the polls, right?
Right, and I dislike Hillary Clinton as much as any guy, but it was too much. At some point, it begins to inure to her benefit that this is happening. It invigorates and fires up her base to have all these Republicans back-to-back criticizing her. It makes her a sympathetic figure. And every time in her political career when she's been beginning to falter, someone has done that. Barack Obama did that in 2008 when he said, she's likable enough, and then she started crying, and that's when she got the rebound. And so Republicans criticize her at their...
Not cry at that point.
Yeah, agree, she did later, yes. Right. But Republicans criticize her at their own peril, right? Because it may fire up their base in the short term, but it helps her in the long term. So they need to be careful and do need to focus more on issues.
And at the same time, Jessica, the 11th commandment, right? Ronald Reagan's "Thou shalt not criticize another Republican." That's also sort of sound strategic advice, right? Don't just go around bashing each other, or you'll end up with a weakened party, which is part of what happened in 2012.
Exactly. And I actually was surprised a little bit when I saw Christie last week. He came out of the gate and took a shot at Jeb, took a shot at Carly Fiorina, and it was kind of a bizarre strategy. But, I definitely agree with what Kevin said, but I do think it's important to kind of, because she's had these missteps out of the gate and this debate is going on in the press about can she identify with regular people, I do think it's an effective argument to make, but I think it's important they also need to articulate what they do stand for instead of just being anti-Hillary. Of course, the press loves to just report, you know, the attacks on Hillary. That's the narrative that everyone wants to portray. So I think some of that got lost in the coverage from New Hampshire.
She is hurt, though, by it because not having a Democratic primary means she's the only target out there. And so when 19 Republicans get up, and no matter what that may mean for the Republican side, it's not great to have her just standing out there alone as a shooting target. She's done a really good job so far kind of reintroducing herself in the Scooby van, I think they're calling it, or I would say a weird unmarked van, but it's working. And so I think that's great. But it's really actually, I think it's concerning because she's got to keep maintaining this kind of stealth and casual, cool attitude in the face of some pretty robust, passionate debate on the Republican side, because that's where all the activity is happening.
Hillary Clinton is one of the most sui generis figures in American politics. I mean, everybody knows who she is. Almost everybody has an opinion. Excuse me. I think what she did with the Scooby van driving out and stopping at Chipotle, although somebody pointed out that that picture looked as if she was robbing the Chipotle. And people are analyzing what it means. What it meant is she got lunch. And I think that this is a woman who's lived inside the bubble, certainly since 1993, you know, maybe before that as, you know, First Lady of Arkansas. I don't think she's had a more normal couple of days in all that time than just driving out there. And I think the analogy is what she did in New York State with the listening tour. And I think it's genuine, and everybody can analyze it 45 ways to Sunday, but at some point the press gets bored with writing the same story, analyzing what she means, and they start covering what she says.
But as a practical matter, she can't really, her campaign can't really expect for her to make intimate contact, you know, 10 people at a time with the millions of people who are going to vote in the early primaries, right?
She can now.
No,
She can now.
See, you said it was genuine. Her rollout has been anything but genuine. I don't give her any criticism for the Chipotle scene, but she supposedly had these spontaneous events with average voters, and they were far from that. And people see that.
They're not spontaneous.
But she needs to have some contact with real voters that isn't prearranged.
Yeah, but can we say genuine event? I mean, this is what I think Hillary Clinton has been in the public eye for 25 years. She's been a First Lady, a U.S. Senator, the Secretary of State. She's not going to walk into well, she did weirdly into a Chipotle and nobody noticed, amazingly, but that's an unusual event for her. So genuine as it applies to Hillary Clinton, I think is actually a little bit of a false positive. She's different. She is going to be different, and her rollout, by definition, is just not going to look like anyone else's.
But they should own that, I think. Like, what do we always tell our candidates? Like, you have to, like, take what you have and work with it and make the best of what it is. Like, trying to make her into this regular person is like fitting a circle in a square hole. I mean, first there was the story in the New York Times, how they hired the woman that was behind, you know, Michelle Obama wearing the baseball hat in Target. So, like, everyone already has, there's all these things that have happened. Everyone already has that perception. Like, she's very accomplished. Like, they should be doubling down on that instead of trying to make her into something
precisely that analogy is why what the campaign should do, and I think this is being driven by her, is not worry about people analyzing. Everything she does is going to be analyzed and judged and put through filters that everybody has already developed and are finally honed in what they think about Hillary Clinton. She has to endure this press. I mean, the Oklahoma land rush of press running around the place in Iowa in order to catch up with the van is very, you know, is very telling in the bubble that she's been forced to live in, and she's trying to break out of that bubble. And I respect the hell out of her for it, and I think that it's genuine. I mean, you know, I know her somewhat, so I think that she has to endure the press coverage.
Okay, we are going to leave it there for now, and we'll be talking again real soon. Thank you all for coming by tonight. We're going to take a short break. I'll be back with a preview of tomorrow night's program in just a minute. Stay with us.